yo, that was a ordeal to say the least.
I
That was
was like,
definitely a
look, you was like, I don't know what to do. I was like, I don't either. We about to figure this out together, okay? Like,
ordeal.
this is gonna
Yeah.
be a two-way thing. It's all good though. It's the first
Well, I
time for
mean,
everything.
I'm glad to know I'm not the only one who's not very tech savvy. Because I swear to God, that's the only reason why I don't do this stuff. I'm just not tech savvy at all.
No, I'm not. I'm really not either. Like, I'm like really figuring this out as I go. So it's definitely, whoo, child, it's fun. But we're here now. We made it. We are
Yes, ma'am.
here. We are here. I'm excited to get the conversation going. Thank you so much for joining. So me, introduce myself, and then you can introduce yourself as well, and then we'll go ahead and get right into it. So I'm D Blake. Welcome to my channel. While you're here, go ahead and hit that like button for me, subscribe to my channel, and ring that notification bell so that you don't miss any of my uploads. This is my first live, in case you couldn't tell. So we are we are here with the wonderful Michael Hubbard. Thank you so much for joining us.
No
And
problem.
today we're going to be discussing criminal justice reform and, with police brutality. And I know that, you may not be exactly hip or may not be, all caught up to all the things that have transpired over the past several years, but it is definitely been a lot. There's been a lot of protests, a lot of, major national, international news with people who have been, seemingly or allegedly wrongfully, killed or, by police or wrongfully convicted, things of that nature. So that's what, so we're going to be kind of just talking about that and just kind of hearing things from your perspective. Just seeing that you kind of have experienced things on the other side of that. So go ahead and introduce yourself, and then we'll get into it.
Oh, okay. So my name is Michael Hubbard. As you previously stated, or as you can probably see, I have served prison time before, so I am a convicted felon. Of course, since being home, I've changed my life around. Now I'm a phlebotomist. I do have a speech impediment for anybody out there that's wondering why, but
It's okay. Me
I'm
too. Me
nervous
too.
because this is my first time ever doing this. But so I'm actually doing pretty well right now for myself, and I'm on track to just um making progress in my life.
Hmm.
Making the right choices and everything. So that's pretty much it about me. Just out of the way, chilling, and always being mindful and inquisitive. So let's get this conversation going, so to speak,
Absolutely. Well,
because I'm actually eager to dive into this.
me too. No, I really am. Like, this is actually something that, like, I really am passionate about and I'm intrigued about, and it's something that I think a lot of people, especially in our community, that we don't discuss multiple perspectives and viewpoints on this topic. We generally, as a community, we kind of have like this, like, straight line viewpoint on on what's needed and what
Yeah.
the issues are. And so, I love that we have an opportunity to be able to discuss these things from a different perspective and, just kind of get some good dialogue going. So before we kind of dive all the way in, tell us like a little bit about you. So, like, how old are you? Like, where are you from? What are you said that you're a phlebotomist.
Yes.
So yeah, so like, how old are you? Where are you from? And what were you convicted of exactly?
Okay. So I'm Michael Hubbard. I'm 29 years old. I'm from Hampton, Virginia. And in 2015, I was convicted of um, robbery in commission of a felon and use of a firearm in commission of a felon, as well as conspiracy,
Okay.
which all equated to me getting 7 years concurrently,
Okay.
and I did pretty much most of that. So,
Okay. And so tell me a little bit about what was going on like in your life, like prior to this conviction. Like, were you would you say that you were in a happy place in your life? Were you doing the things that you wanted to do? were there some challenges that you were going through before that happened that kind of led you into that predicament? Tell me a little bit about what was going on before that happened.
Honestly, I was in the actual pretty good place. Like, of course, like most early 20s adults, you're financially struggling, but you're
Mm-hmm.
not like completely weighed down by debt. You're not
Yeah.
completely under that ocean and mountain of debt, right? So it was nothing too insurmountable that I honestly could not handle if I just had the patience and the maturity level to kind of just stick through it. I was in college at the time, going to Tidewater Community College. I had a job. I had an apartment with a couple of my friends, and what got me in that element in the first place was, to be honest with me, Frank, is just bad influence. And I think we don't talk enough about how influences are really are really like a big element as to why we make the choices that we make, that kind
Mm-hmm.
of puts us in the throes of law enforcement, because at the end of the day, all this stuff comes down to is good choices and bad choices. Because I have a twin brother, um, who was in the same lifestyle as me, as far as college kid, going to school, has his own place. He's not exactly financially there, but he's not under a mountain of debt either. But he did not make the choices I made. So when I went off to prison, I'm noticing that his life is going the opposite way, right? He, ended up
Mm-hmm.
joining the Air Force, just getting his life together, but he made the wise choices, the prudent choices, right? The
Mm-hmm.
ones that will actually grant you, one, not only your freedom, but for financial prosperity, elevation. When I made the choices that kind of put me deeper into a rabbit hole. So,
Yeah.
um, and of course, it all came down to influence as far as the type of songs I was listening to, the people I were hanging around, just the type of conversations I was having, the emotional um, upheaval I would feel without thinking, from like quote unquote um, unjust police shootings and stuff like that. So now I have this rebellious attitude coming out of me, because I just feel like
Mm-hmm.
I have to be emotionally invested into something that really, when I think back about it, I really didn't care. I was just kind of just going along with the crowd. But that's due again to the power of influence. So that's where my mind was at the time. I wasn't a criminal. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I want people to understand. I was not a criminal.
Okay.
I was influenced by people around me that were promoting the criminal lifestyle. Not just people, but also music, media, movies, everything. And that's what you know ultimately end up caused me to choose to commit my own downfall.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
that's
So
kind of
I
where I
mean
was
that's
at.
definitely very profound, and it's good that you can kind of like reflect back and just understand, like, it wasn't necessarily like your environment that you grew up around, or the way that you were raised. It was just more of the people that you chose to hang around, and you allowed that negative influence to impact your life, unfortunately, in a negative way. You did say something that I thought was pretty interesting when you were talking about the um, just kind of seeing like how these stories of police brutality would make like the national headlines and like all that other stuff. Do you think that that also kind of had an impact on like your attitude towards like the law and like law enforcement, like just seeing stories like that and feeling like, you know, that the system is already kind of like gamed against you in a sense? Like, did that at all impact your, decision making at the time?
So, and I have to speak carefully here because I want to be clear. I allowed it to influence me, but that's actually not how I thought, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm saying is I just kind of went along with it. Um, but I can see how those kind of headlines could kind of create this like us versus them type of um thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
that's what it does. So when you have these constant bombardments of police freaking brutality to this, and this person was unjustly shot, this unarmed black guy was killed, they automatically put the police right in the bad picture, and putting
Right.
the not just the person that was involved, but the entire black community in like a like they are being hunted type of mind state, right? That's what
Hmm.
kind of creates that mindset of you know, I have to I have to rebel against authority. Period.
Yeah.
I have to rebel against the system. I have to rebel against law and order. I have to rebel. I have to rebel. Instead of us just actually sitting there and actually thinking about the unknowns of each individual case,
Hmm.
because you don't know everything. You weren't there.
Right.
But I can say I was influenced in a way because I did not have enough of a backbone to really stand on what I truly believed in at the time, because I'm
Hmm.
so fixated on, of course, trying to be a part of the crowd. Just trying to find my niche in life, right?
Yeah.
So you kind of just go with the flow sometimes, and you kind of give up your backbone when you're in your young 20s and you're just trying to fit in and find your place,
Hmm.
right? You're just kind of do anything,
Yeah.
um, which is can lead to you um, sacrificing your morals and your convictions to kind of join the flock that may be walking off a cliff, essentially,
Yeah.
which a lot of people do. They do. So that's where that's how I can say I was influenced, you can say.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I can definitely understand like how that can, certainly impact somebody's like mindset and their decision making. I think like, with a lot of people in our community, especially, around that time, like, people who are our age, like, we were definitely kind of like immobilized by the media in a sense of, it's us versus them. Like the police are bad, and, you can be a law abiding citizen doing everything right, and it doesn't matter, because the police can still just come and just arrest you. So, you might as well just do what you want to do anyways, because, it's us versus them regardless. So,
Right. And I just want to put out there to people, that's just not a true narrative. It's just
yeah.
not true. I think people really underappreciate and underestimate just how difficult law enforcement is, right? I use this example all the time with like my family and stuff like that.
Hmm.
I say, okay, if you guys see two strangers across the street fighting, are y'all gonna get involved? Most people be like, heck no, right? Heck no. So I say, okay, what you guys don't realize is that when cops see that, they have to go and counter that. They have to go and counter two hostile strangers. You know what
Hmm.
I'm saying? That's in the throes of essentially trying to kill each other, because a
Yeah.
fight is pretty deadly, right? So you cannot say, or you cannot be so quick to jump down an officer's throat when mistakes may be made in like these quick instances where they have to make a decision that can involve life and death, right? You're not
Yeah.
gonna for I even speak from the standpoint of when, I was robbing and stuff and stealing, right? Um, when I would go up and rob somebody, right? The last thing I would want to do is have somebody put their hands in their pockets, because now you're making me nervous,
Yeah.
right? I don't know what you're gonna pull out your pockets. What a lot of people do when they're involved with police and they have these encounters, and mind you, it's a nervous encounter, because it's still, even though I'm an officer, right? I'm still just a person encountering another person that's
Right.
a
You're still
stranger to me.
human with human
Right,
emotions and, reactions.
right. So I'm encountering a stranger who I do not know. I do not know what your disposition is. I don't know what your mindset is. I don't know if you've been getting high all day, or if you just had a long day at work, or you just got in a spat with whoever, right? I don't know where your mental and attitude is at. And I have to pull you over and stop you. And then your first reaction towards me is that of hostility or attitude.
Hmm.
So now you're already putting me in like a fight or flight mode off the dick. So now,
Yeah.
as the officer, in the officer's mindset, they're thinking, okay, I have to make sure in my mind that I am consciously setting up myself to potentially have to neutralize a threat,
Hmm.
right? Because they're trained to do that. So when people come with just attitude just off the dick, and just hostility towards anybody, but then let alone an officer, most likely the end result is it's going to get escalated because you're not going to calm down, and that's going to make the officer have to calm you down because they have to calm down the actual situation. They have to do that. They can't just let it escalate. You know, that's their job. So when most people just simply comply, like 99% of the times, if you comply, you will be just fine. Even the night I got arrested, right? And I ran a little bit, right? I ran, right? Of course, things got less painful for me when I just got down and complied. You know, yes, they were like a little bit freaking heavy, like on my back and everything. But then again, you gotta think about what they're thinking about. They just got a report of a freaking potentially armed suspect running through the neighborhoods, right? So should I really expect them to like be all easy and gentle with me when I just kind of did harm to another innocent person and I might have a gun that might do some harm to somebody else? Of course not, right? But they didn't like you know, whip my ass or nothing or beat me up. They just simply was like, you know, hey, you know, just stay down, stay down, stay down. And then they stood me up a little bit quick, but that was it because I did not give any protest because I was caught. No protest was given.
Yeah, and I think that I think that with a lot of officers, I think like in the overwhelming majority of officers, I think that their goal is always to de-escalate and to not cause harm if possible. I don't think you know, any large number of officers are going into situations, even hostile situations, and thinking, you know, oh, I'm going to go and shoot this person, or I want to go and, you know, harm this person. You know what I mean? So that's just, you know, and I think that as a community, I think that we tend to absolve the wrongdoings of the people that become victimized by police, you know, unfortunately at times. But I think that we tend to just, you know, push what they may have done wrong to the side. And we only look at the fact that the police officer was, you know, a little violent towards them, or maybe they applied, you know, too much physical violence towards them,
right?
You know, but like at the same time, it's like you said, it's like, you know, these officers, like they're going into the dangerous situations that regular citizens, we would never want to put ourselves in those kind of situations. And so it's like, you know, you never know what kind of person you're coming in, you know, encounter with. You don't know what they may have done. You don't know what they may have on them. You know, then if they're behaving erratically or if they're resisting arrest, you don't know how the situation may escalate further. And, you know, then you think about having female cops, you know, if they have a male suspect, or having a really large man who might be like, you know, 6'5", he's 250, and you have a, you know, 5'9", 5'10" officer weighing 200 pounds, you know, like you have to think about those kind of dynamics and how they have to adjust themselves and react in the moment in order to hopefully keep the suspect safe, but also keep themselves safe at the end of the day. And I think that they are, you know, trained at the end of the day to keep themselves safe. And so, you know, for them to come home to their families, like they don't want to lose their lives on the job. So I think that with our community, we really do tend to absolve our role in a lot of these situations that do tend to go like viral, that do tend to, you know, make the national headlines and things like that. We do tend to just absolve our wrongdoings and how we, you know, agitated the situation, how we escalated it further than where it needed to go. And like you said, like, you know, if you would just comply, if you would just, you know, cooperate with what they're telling you to do, 99% of the time, you're going to be fine. You're going to walk away just fine. I mean, you're going to probably go to jail, but, you know, you're going to be,
of course, you know, it has to be some consequence.
But you're going to be alive. So it's like, you know, like you'll still get to have breath in your body, and you won't have to be in the hospital with a bunch of bloody noses and, you know, black eyes. Like, so, you know, I think that's good that you did want to touch on that and kind of share, you know, how the narrative can get twisted with, not only, I think the media does play a big role in it, but I think that as a community, we also have like a predisposition with our relationship with the police. And I think that we really just do not give them like enough credit for how much they really do to protect us and to keep us safe.
Well, see, I think that comes from like we hold on as a community to past misgrievances and injustices, right? Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, we've kind of gotten stuck in this loop where, you know, times have changed, right? But we're always looking for the next, like unjust thing going on and indignation. We're always looking for that next thing to cling to claim as our own personal experience, right? Which is just it's just not a healthy mindset, right? It's like, when are you going to get to a point where, okay, you realize that things have pretty much been evened out for everybody, right? There's nothing on the law books that say because I'm black I can't do this, or because I'm black I can't do that, or because I'm black you have to go a little bit harder on me on this. There's nothing on the books that say that. So there's no structural anything going on there. You might have pockets of individual biases and prejudices and racism, right? But that's human behavior in general. That's how humans have acted since like the dawn of time.
Yeah.
You cannot erase nobody's personal proclivities or belief systems. You cannot erase that. That's going to be a part of the human experience. But what's very important is that it's not on a structural level. But we like to make it, but we like to pretend like it is. And that is one of the biggest issues. So, and I'm just going to touch on this. What's so dangerous about us always absolving the criminal in the matter? Because there is a criminal in the matter, right? There's a perpetrator in these instances, right? You have a perpetrator and the victim. When you absolve the perpetrator, because mind you, I actually sat alongside these perpetrators for years, right? When you're doing that, you actually are trying to give them a leg to justify their behavior as well. You give them a leg to stand on to justify their behavior. So now you're kind of preventing them from truly reflecting on themselves so that they can make changes. Because now you have just created a route for them to justify their behavior. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you cannot excuse bad behavior no matter who's doing it, right? It doesn't matter who's doing it. You cannot absolve it just because something bad didn't happen to them. If I killed my mama right now and then the police came and then I charged at them with a knife and then I'm shot, you're not gonna be very mournful of my death, right? Because I just murdered my mother, right? You're gonna actually kind of install the cops there as heroes because I could have killed again. So why do we not have that same concept when those little pocket incidences happen where it's somebody that's in the wrong and then they escalate and then unfortunately end up getting killed, right? Or just hurt very badly. It's like at some point you got to know that, hey, at the end of the day, this person put themselves in this position and predicament and you got to let them live with it. Because when the person kind of escalates a fight that they know they can't win, right? You know you can't win when you have encounters with the police. You can't win because that's how it's set up. It's set up so that when I have a gun, they bring bigger and better guns. That's exactly how it's set up. So it's like there's no winning with that, right? You cannot try to you cannot then try to take away what the police have to do there, it's just a lot. It's a lot that I've seen over the years that has kind of really irritated me. And this is for me from the inside looking out. But I watch the news a lot and I keep up with stuff. So when I seen this myself, I was like, the country and the world itself seems to be like flipping the coin in a very bad direction here.
Yeah.
When it comes to how they view it, because now you're absolving criminals and you're trying to hail them as martyrs and you're making statues of them and murals and everything. But when you look back at their actual lives, what did they actually do that was worth them having this
Absolutely
status?
nothing. Absolutely nothing.
It's actually worse than nothing. You were actually perpetrating people your whole life most of the time.
Yeah.
Because you have a long record. So you're doing worse than nothing. You're actually victimizing people and hurting people. So you're actually doing a lot more harm than good. Is that the kind of person that you want to kind of have? That'd be like us putting Hitler, a freaking statue of Hitler right in the middle of downtown Washington or something and saying this is what like a great man or something, you know, like that.
Yeah.
No, you know, you can't do that.
Right, because he got
That's
killed by
not
the
something you
police,
work.
so like that, like absolves any like of his past crimes that he may
Right,
have committed against other people. Forget his victims of his crimes; they don't
right. It's like
matter.
I
He was
know that
killed
I
by the
killed.
police because of
It's
his
like I
own
know I killed millions of Jews,
issues,
but you
but
know I was killed by police unjustly, so
so that's just
I
so.
shouldn't be.
Give me statues. Give me millions of dollars. Give my family millions of dollars, and
Right, no,
sue the city. I want the city to pay my family millions of dollars, and I want people to donate to my family millions of dollars, even though I have spent my lifetime being a threat and a menace to society.
right.
That's what we promote. I want
Life
to
is about
get
consequences. In that sense.
I want to get back to you a little bit because I do want to kind of touch on some other things as far as criminal justice reform. So you said that you were sentenced to about like 7 years, you said?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
So for the crimes that you committed, like, do you believe that that was a fair sentence? Do you believe that it was, do you think that it was too lenient, or do you think that it was too strict, or was it fair to you?
Honestly, it was fair. I would say it was fair only because, and it's actually funny because when I went into the prison system, I had this mindset of, oh, it's unfair. They did me dirty, blah, 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 blah. And it took this guy that was doing like 15 years for a crime because I was trying to downplay it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, my crimes aren't even that violent. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to downplay it like it's nothing serious, right? Like I should have
Yeah.
only got like 3 years or something, right?
It was just armed robbery,
It
nothing
was just
crazy.
armed robbery that I planned with somebody else, you know, and I was gonna go out and keep doing it, you know what I'm saying? So what he had, he sat down with me and he really like broke it down. He was like, all right, Mike, imagine that you sitting here at work all day, you work hard for all your items all day, right? And you're coming home and you just want to relax. And then some young punk comes up and points a gun at you and threatens your life, and you have to give up your stuff or you might lose your life, right? Doesn't that make you feel like you want to kill him after that has happened to you? I was like, yeah, and I would feel scared. He was like, and that's why it's serious. Because when you do something like that to something, that's a very, you know, just a bad thing to do. Very bad
Mm-hmm.
thing to do, right? Because when I sat there and I was like, you know what? If I was ever robbed in that manner, in fact, I was kind of robbed a little bit, but not really, just beaten up because of something that my friend did, one of the bad influences did, that I ended up paying the consequence for. So when he sat down with me, he said that, it took me back to that moment to where it's like, well, when my friend robbed that lady for some pills, and then she got her friends to come look for him, and they found me, and they beat me up and threatened my life, and essentially tried to rob me in order to get the pills back. And they end up, of course, getting the pills back because they was just
Mm-hmm.
right in my apartment. I was like, man, you know, that's how robberies can go south, like really quickly. Robberies can get deadly really, really quickly,
Yeah.
you know. So I understand the severity of my crime. Now, what I can say is certain states are different than others, depending on what state, right?
Mm-hmm.
In certain states, my amount of time I would have gotten probably would have been a little bit harsh. But then again, our crime rate is not as high as some place in like DC or New York or LA, where it's like it's constant, you know, when it's
Do you think
widespread,
that
big.
like places like those, and I'm not sure, I'm not well versed in like all the different states and like their crime laws and things like that, but the way that I tend to believe is that I think that in those types of cities and those types of, you know, areas, they tend to be more lenient on crime. And so, you know, when you do have those situations where people are committing, um, you know, maybe not violent crime, but just robberies or assaults or things like that, you know, I tend to
Okay.
believe that they tend to get like a slap on the wrist almost. Like, you know, like they may get, you know, a year, 2 years, something kind of slight, because when you look at the crime rates in those areas, it's so just like
Commonplace.
astronomical numbers. Like it's just like it just
Hmm.
makes
It's
absolutely no
commonplace.
sense. So I don't know if you have any idea, but like, what do you think about that type of logic? Like, you know, like if y'all's crime rates are so high, you guys have to be just releasing these criminals back onto the streets over and over again, because it just doesn't make any sense that if you guys were actually being tough on crime and were actually giving harsh sentences for these crimes, I don't think that you would see such high numbers in these violent crimes in those areas.
Well, right. So that is one of the main problems, is because of the American culture in general itself, and I'm pretty sure you've noticed, we have kind of shifted into a criminalized culture where we kind of praise that type of thing now. So now with the rise of more and more crime, it's almost as if the judicial system itself has become numb to it, to where you got attorneys that will make deals to get this person less time and get this person more time, but ultimately it's all about making a profit, right? So the more people you have going in and out, right, actually the more money you're making for the judicial process and in the judicial system. So I think that actually has a big part as to doing why you see less harsher, sentences and stuff like that, in certain areas, right?
Yeah.
And if you notice, it's mainly in like those very like hot button areas like DC or Atlanta. Not everywhere, of course.
Memphis,
Right.
Chicago.
Right. Like the only way really to get like a harsh sentence, because another thing people don't understand is that, you may have these large amount of crimes occurring, but these might be first time offenders, right? Or these might be people who don't have necessarily long criminal histories anyway. So, of course, you're going to get a slap on the wrist your first time or your second time, or if you've never committed a crime of that nature, you're going to get a slap on the wrist, right? Now, me personally, for a robbery, I think 2 years, 3 years, a little bit too low. You know what I'm saying? Because you have to act like you have to put in your heart and your mindset to forcefully take from somebody else with the potential of taking their life in order to take it, right? Assaults, I can understand because you can literally just start fighting, right? That's understandable. That's more like primal. Assault charges can happen from just primal instinct of you feeling threatened, and you may not necessarily want to kill somebody, but you just might want to defend yourself. But I feel like crimes where it's like it involves just you perpetrating on somebody else, like literally you're just perpetrating, because that's what a robbery is. You're just intentionally perpetrating on somebody else to take their things. That's like actually pretty heinous. But unfortunately, like I said, it's become so numb and commonplace. It's like, well, we can't just have a overload of people freaking heading into these prisons and not coming out, because now we're going to have what's called a overflow, right? There's not going to be enough room to house people because so many people are committing crimes.
Real quick, Michael, because I want to get this. There's somebody in the chat asking what the topic is. So we're talking about criminal justice reform, and we're talking about police brutality. We are kind of just discussing things from the perspective of someone who has been through the system and who has served time in prison for armed robbery. And so we're kind of just discussing how there tend to be some misconceptions among like the Black community with, just how we interact with the police, how they interact with us, and just discussing how, we can kind of shift the narrative to move away from, it's the police versus the Black community, or just police versus minorities, and how, police are just racist. They're hunting down Black men and just, deleting Black men left and right, just walking down the street and just feeling like, deleting people. So we're kind of just touching on those topics and just kind of breaking things down. I'm getting things from the perspective of Michael. So thank you for joining. I think you are a police officer as well, Michael, if I'm not mistaken. So, definitely would love to have you on sometime, and we can also, kind of touch on the same topic. Yeah, for 11 years. Wow. So so he's been an officer for 11 years. So I would love
Congratulations.
I would love to have you on at some point, and definitely discuss police, police reform, brutality, talk about some of the trainings that you guys might go through, and just kind of work to break the misconception about how horrible police officers are, and try to restore some level of like respect and just admiration for our officers, because they do so much, and they put their lives on the line for us every single day, and they do the things that we would, us citizens would not want to do, and put ourselves at risk for. So just wanted to touch on that really quickly. But I'm sorry to interrupt you, Michael. I'm sorry, but
Oh
if you
no,
want to go
that's
ahead and
cool.
continue, or you want to.
No, that was pretty much it. I mean, it's like
Okay.
that's why you have such a like a lack of harshness on crime. It's not well, it's a combination of just so much crime on the rise. So it's like they're trying to figure out how to kind of like keep the door going so that people can have a place to get locked up in. But then you also have these like social justice policies that are kind of really pushing the narrative where they want people to like have compassion and understanding and all this stuff. But really, when you're like around these people, right? Because I've been around them for years, they not changing. You know what I'm saying? They're literally talking about going out and doing the same thing again once they get out. Like the majority of them that's in those prisons are talking about doing the same thing, or if not worse, when they get back out. They talk about the same type of topics. They have the same interests. They may read more like books and stuff, more self-help books. But when your character shows, it shows, right? So
Yeah.
um, you can kind of like tell like about 85% of the people that's in there are going to come back for either the same charge or some other dumb crime that they knew they had no business doing, but they chose to do it anyway because what they did not eradicate was the criminal mindset to begin with. That's what I did, right? That's why I haven't
Hmm.
been back in trouble since. But most people don't eliminate that criminal mindset because they're criminals.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's
And
and when you have people pushing for
I
that,
think that like with that criminal mindset, I think that there are some cases where people can absolutely like be reformed, and people can absolutely turn their lives
absolutely.
around. And I don't think that making a mistake in your life should just completely just rid you of any other second chances or any other opportunities going forward. But I think that we have to learn how to discern from people who have that potential, and then the people who are just I don't want to say a
Gone.
lost cause, but a lost cause. Like you just
Yeah.
you've proven that you cannot handle being in society. You've proven that you just do not have any respect for your fellow man or for the common, or for your citizens. And I feel like there should be a point where you just lose your privileges to be in society, and that may not necessarily have to be where you're deleting somebody, like you're murdering somebody. It can just be you do enough armed robberies, you're gone, you're off the streets, like or just
Hmm.
you if you hurt enough people, or not even enough people. I just feel like I don't know what the number of chances should be, but I think like we should kind of be focusing the criminal justice reform on how to be how to more enforce the law, because we
Right,
have
right.
these laws, but I just feel like they're not always enforced.
I get what you're saying. It has to be more of a presence of like permanent consequence behind it, right?
Yes, because
Severe
people don't
permanent
think that like,
consequence
oh, like
behind
I
it.
can commit all these crimes, and like I might serve a few years in jail and I can just come back out, or they're just I feel like people just are not concerned with the consequences as much as they should be.
Oh no, it's gotten even worse where now people think it's actually like kind of like a badge of honor now. Now it's like a badge of honor. So it's actually gotten worse. Now it's like no,
Uh,
literally, it's like a literal badge of honor. Like I hate since I've gotten out that you have people that's still in that mindset that find out I've been in prison that they kind of like give me my props that I got through. But I'm like, man, I don't want props for that. You know what I'm saying? Like that's bad. I don't want props for
yeah.
having done that. I served a freaking punishment. That's not nothing to give me props for. What am I getting props
Hmm.
for? I did something bad to somebody else, so I served a punishment. What the heck am I getting props for? Because I got out. I had a
Yeah.
release date. That's the only reason why I got out. There's people in there
Hmm.
that don't have release dates, literally. They're gonna die in there and they know it. So it's like, don't let's not give each other props for getting out of prison. Like, yeah, you should. You got a release date. By law, they have to let me go. But at the end of the day, I still did do something unlawful or harm somebody. And we have to stop. giving each other props for that. And that's also
Yeah.
at the core of the issue. That's
No,
why
for sure. I
people,
think
that's why it's not going up.
there's definitely a culture that glorifies criminality. And I think that when we, as a community, when we discuss these types of topics, we tend to just always lean towards, oh, it's, white supremacy, it's racism, it's,
Yeah,
it's the
yeah,
white man's fault
automatically.
and all these other things. And it's just like, no, we have a cultural problem within our community. And I think that, there, and we talk about the Black community because we're both Black, obviously, like, and we know what our community is about. I'm aware that there are issues with the white community, with Asians, with
Absolutely.
everyone else. Everyone has their issues, but I think
right.
there's something very unique about our community, and I don't think that any other community, I think that they all have their issues, but I don't think that they tend to glorify their issues the way that we do,
don't.
right? So we glorify criminality. We like the rap, rap music is all about,
we glorify prostitution. We glorify a lot of things.
Prostitution. We glorify sex work. We glorify, we glorify killing each other in the streets. It's like, we're always crying, RIP to this person, RIP to that person. You didn't deserve it. But then you hear the music that we praise and what we promote, and it's like he's bragging about killing that person in the song. And so, it's just like, it's like, I understand like other people have their issues, but they don't glorify their issues the way that we do. When white people or when Asian people, when somebody is a degenerate in their society, like they're, lifelong criminals, if they get gunned down by the police, no one's batting an eye or gonna go protest for them. Like, they're not gonna be out there in the streets demanding justice. And they'll probably be like, no, like, good riddance to them. Like, they were a menace to society. Like,
yeah,
and,
I mean, that's a
like, life just goes on. Like, they don't try to fight for people like that. And I feel like we're just so backwards in our community because we fight for the people who represent the absolute worst in us. We fight for the people who, cause more harm than good to us. But then the people who are doing good, the people who are trying to make a difference in our community, when tragic things happen to them, it's like we're silent, like nothing, like it's like no one bats an eye when bad things happen to them. So it's just like, I think that, we just have a unique set of issues within our community. And, I just think that people are just not like addressing our cultural issues. Like, it's not about white people or racism. Like, no, we have our own internal cultural issues, and we have to clean up our own room before we go try to point fingers at other people about what they need to be doing to help us out.
Oh yeah, I totally agree with you. I think one of the major problems within our own community and what you kind of see more in other communities is that we have gotten away from having a healthy freaking relationship with shame, right? Shame is actually good to a certain extent. So
Preach.
when I do something bad, right, if my community cares about me, they're going to let me pay the consequences for it and not like protest and try to fight to try to get me absolved or reversed. Why? Because I have to learn a lesson. I will not learn a lesson if I do not go through any consequence, or if I know that if I do this, there's going to be a crowd of people riding behind me to get me off, right? Because as a Black community over the years, we have gotten so enthralled within our emotions. We've gotten so in tune with it that we don't know how to think outside of them. So all of us are more about what's going to make us feel good, to make us feel better about ourselves instead of what's actually right?
Mm-hmm.
What's going to put us on the most righteous path and virtuous path. So we stop shaming more and more and more because we didn't want to make this person feel bad. But because we don't want to make this person feel bad, now their behavior is getting worse. It's kind of like, that's kind of like how it's like almost as Black people, we are acting as bad parents, right? Like literally. A good parent is gonna, have consequences on their child. They're gonna tell them at the point speaking when they're doing bad. They're not gonna absolve them of any wrongdoing, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what a bad parent is gonna do. They're gonna always find some excuse as to why their child was justified in their bad behavior. That's the point that we've gotten to as a race of people. And you will see in other communities, right? It's more of a shame culture still there. Like they will literally excommunicado, you know. They'll be like, this person's not this person's not with us, you know. Um, and we have to reestablish a freaking relationship with shame. We have to, so that we can start holding each other more accountable, and then that's when the behaviors will actually start to kind of at least improve a little bit. When you hold people accountable more, then there's less of a leg for somebody to stand on to not give them a reason to have some introspection on themselves, you know. When you be like, hey, look, man, that was wrong. That was wrong right there. You shouldn't do that. That was wrong. No, I'm not going to help you. I'm not going to pay to get you out of prison this time, or I'm not going to pay to get you out of jail. I'm not going to give you $2,000 when I just gave you $2,000 last month, and that went elsewhere. Like, you know, at some point you got to let people experience the consequences of their actions, so that either they could either A, learn from it, or B, just be taken away from us forever. Because either way, it's like improvement is where we're actually trying to go after here, right? So we can't improve if we don't, you know, hold each other accountable. But we've stopped doing that
Yeah,
as a
it's like
people.
you
We
would
have.
think that. I mean, we say that we want improvement, we say that we want things to be better, but how can you really want things to be better if we refuse to take accountability for our actions? Like, you know, how can we say that we want better for our community, but all we do is just constantly point the finger at other people for why we behave the way that we do? No one forces us to act this way. No one, you know, no amount of racism or whatever, outside thing you want to blame, like that's not going to, we choose how to act, for ourselves. Like
Right.
no one controls our behavior but ourselves. And I like, going back to the beginning of our conversation, how you were saying, like, like, yes, like there were influences that I had around me, but at the end of the day, I made those decisions. So I'm not going to blame
Exactly.
those outside influences for my behavior and for my decisions. And I think that is a lot of what we tend to lack in our community, and why we can't see progress and why we can't go forward, because we're, pointing the finger at, the government, saying, hey, government, you need to fix us, instead of, looking at ourselves and saying, okay, we have these problems. Why is it that we can't get ahead? Why is it that we can't, stop killing each other? Like, why is it that we can't stop
So
hurting each other? Like, why don't we,
right.
why don't we have those conversations instead of just trying to make our problem someone else's issue for them to
That
fix?
that's one of the biggest things I hate, is that when we point the fingers at others and we want other people to fix our problems, as if the government has not instituted new policies and law and procedures over years, right? It's like at some point we have to realize and recognize, they've actually made lawful changes. They've actually made adjustments on a structural level, but we're still putting out the same results. All right. At some point, we have to realize there's what's called um, we have certain privileges, right, that we are able to um, obtain in our life, but that is
Mhm.
dependent on the choices you make. So you have the privileges that you get from making the good choices, then you have the privileges that you get from making the bad choices, right?
Right.
And at some point, we have to get to a point where we have to live in reality and know that we're making a lot of the bad choices that are giving us these bad privileges, these bad stereotypes, these bad images, because, right, what may make somebody look at a person who's black and think he is, a criminal or threatening and stuff like that. Well, if you look at the majority of us, right, I'm not even gonna say the majority, but if you look at a lot of us and what is put out there and promoted, it's a lot of people making bad choices, right? So of
Mhm.
course they're automatically gonna just put up that wall, because that's what human beings do, right? We automatically we have biases automatically. We stereotype. We do these things. We profile so that we can protect ourselves from potential threats. That's just what we do. So when we put out these bad images, these bad choices all the time, of course, it's going to paint us in a bad light. So now everybody's going to be looking at us,
But then we get
crazy.
mad. But then we get mad when we get stereotyped. But then
we get mad when we get stereotyped.
It's like, how dare you put me in a box? It's like we put ourselves in a box. Like that's all we glorify.
Right. And then on top, and then now we're asking those, what I'm saying, the freaking powers that be, like you said, to hey, help us, fix us. Well, those speaking powers that be probably say we've been doing that. Like, what more do you want us to do? At what point are you going to pick up the tools that I'm giving you and use the tools that I'm giving you? At what point are you going to do that? At some point, you got to make the right choices.
That's probably what they say behind the scenes. But then when they come out to the public and they try to pander to our community, they'll say, you guys are right. We need to be doing more. We need to do this. We need to do that. And, you guys should vote for you guys should vote for us because we're going to do all these things to help you guys out. And then
it makes money though. That's why
it's like and money. Then nothing happens. And then it's just the same things over and over. And it's just like a we're just, running back the record on replay. It's just like, we have all these issues. We have these politicians who come in and say that they're going to fix it. They're going to, implement these different things to try to help us. But then, and even the policies that they're trying to implement, it's like that. It's not really fixing the issue. The issue is not the policies at this point at where we are in our, in America. The issues are not the policies, in my opinion. Like it's the issues are us. It's us. Like it's
our own behaviors. It's our own choices, and that's what we have to get to understanding. And we have to agree upon that, and not be so quick to combat that. Like I get called like an Uncle Tom, or I keep getting told, "Well, I gotta freaking remember I'm black," and I tell people, "What does my skin color have to do with my choices that I make and my decisions?" Right? What does my skin my skin color is just a byproduct of my parents. That's it.
They get mad when other groups of people stereotype us, but then as a black person, if you don't fit into the approved black, experience, like you don't fit into the approved black mindset, then something's wrong with you. And it's just like, wait a minute, I thought you guys don't like being stereotyped. So if you don't like being stereotyped, why is it a problem?
Don't be a hypocrite.
If I have a perspective or if I think outside of what the average or the normal quote unquote black person may think or may have an opinion about, like, why is it so wrong for me to want to think outside of that? But it's not wrong, but you want to participate in the stereotype, then you get mad when people stereotype you.
Right. It literally does not make any sense. Because you literally cannot forward a conversation that way. And that's kind of the whole point of why we don't hold each other accountable. It's because we're not having these conversations as a community to make changes and improve. We're holding these conversations just so that folks is able to say, y'all are right, you guys are correct. That's it. We're holding these conversations to be right. We're not holding these conversations to actually improve upon anything. That's why you have so many black people saying the same things, and those small few that step outside that box, all of a sudden now we're kind of
we're kicked out from Massa. We're tap dancing.
We are excommunicado. We are John Wick. You know what I'm saying? We get John Wick out of the fold. You know what I'm saying? Everybody hunting us down. Like we get treated like John Wick in a sense.
Literally,
you know what I mean? We now we can't say nothing, but it's like it's
we're supposed to just be quiet and just go along with the insanity. We're supposed to just go along with the dysfunction and the toxicity and the destruction and the criminality. We're just supposed to just go along with it and just don't talk about it. Like how dare we talk about it? Our problem is white people. That's it. There's no further conversation that needs to be had other than the problem is white people. That's it.
Hey, look, I actually said this, I think it was last month at my job with this guy. He was talking about all that stuff. Where he was like, "Yeah, I have a problem with white people, and white people doing this, and they do that." I'm like, okay, tell me the last time you've seen a KKK member just strolling around. Tell me the last time you've heard of a big incident with a KKK group. Can you tell me when? And he can't. And
Ask him
most
the
people
last
can't.
time. Ask him the last time he was a victim of actual racism. Like when was the last time that you were an actual victim
Right.
of real racism? Not like a white person
Right.
looked at me funny. Like real
So
racism.
so then look. So then I then added on to that. Then I said, now I want you to tell me the last time you seen a person that's in your neighborhood that is also a gang member that's of the same skin color as you that's causing problems on a daily, every day, right? Don't you think that's more of a problem than what this ghost white person is doing? This ghost of
No,
a ghost that
Michael,
we don't see now?
no. The problem is white people, Michael. Who
Yeah,
cares that
right.
we represent 50% of the murderers in the country and we're only 12% of the population? No, that doesn't matter, Michael. It's no white
Yeah,
people. That's it. We're only going to
it's
talk
always,
about that.
yeah, it's like it's always white people this, white people that. I'm like, yo, I do not know. I tell people this all the time. It's gonna be funny. I'm like, yo, y'all do know it was a person when I was in prison, and he was a part of the Aryan Brotherhood, and he did a tattoo on my back. Like that's how kind of like non. It's like kind of like how much of a non-issue white people really are these days, because generally in the country we have shifted to where most people don't really engage in racism like that. Most people generally don't. You know what I'm saying?
Generally,
In general, I'm not gonna say that people don't do it at all, because there's always
right.
gonna be somebody. But even those that actively do, I don't care because you're racist. But is that gonna affect me that you're racist? No, this guy was AB, and I let him do the tattoo on my back. I don't care that you don't like me because of my skin color, man.
It
I
doesn't
don't
matter
know
if you
you
don't
to
like me. Like that's all, like you
I
don't have
don't
to like everyone.
I don't know you. I don't know you to care if you like me or not. I don't know you. All right. I'm only engaging with you for a business transaction, and it honestly it turned out quite well. I mean, by far my best tattoo that I've gotten, painless and everything. Like he didn't
I'm
try to
so
hurt me or
weak.
nothing. He gave me a good deal on the price. I'm
I'm
like,
so
dang,
weak.
so
Hey,
you
and you know what?
AB
Like
dog,
that's and like, at the end of the day, it's like if it's a good business deal, our personal affiliations, our personal feelings don't really have to play a factor into
it does not matter.
a business transaction. Like it's going to benefit you, it's going to benefit me. That's all that really
Well,
matters.
that's why I use that example of how racism is really that much of a non-issue, right? Because just because of your personal feelings towards me, that's not going to prevent me from getting whatever I need to have done. Because if he said no, okay, I can go to a million other people that's doing the same freaking thing.
Yeah.
You can say no. You hold that right to tell me no, right? Because you're still a business owner. You're still conducting the business. You can say no to whoever. I can just go down the street. I can just go wherever else. You know what I'm saying? That I don't care about your personal feelings towards me, right? But I care about you being fair towards me.
Yeah.
That's what I care about, and that's where as Black people we're not understanding is that we're so focused or so freaking hyper focused on racism. We gotta find some way to make us the victims, right? We gotta find some way to make ourselves look like the victims of something that we're not understanding the progress that we've made, and how even though the country has been making progress, we are really digressing because we're making bad choices perpetually. And that is literally like a toxic mindset that we have adapted, and I don't know when we're gonna get out of it, to be honest. Um, because what I'm saying, quite frankly, our culture is only getting worse. I mean, people
Yeah.
are getting younger, kids are having kids at younger ages. So now you got just influence getting pushed on them at younger and younger ages. And it's only getting worse.
Yeah. So you mentioned a little while ago about, the certain privileges and things that we have. Do you think that Black Americans are not appreciative or take advantage of the privileges that we do have in this country? Do you think that they just yeah, like we're just not appreciative, and that we take advantage of the privileges that we have here? Do you think that we have privileges here? Do you think that the privileges are only reserved for white people? They're the only ones who get privileges.
Love this question. All right, so boom. Like I said, we live in one of the greatest countries in the world, right? So we live in a country where we are literally we can reap the benefits of either the, like I said before, the bad choice privilege, like, you know what I'm saying, our bad decisions and our good decisions. We don't live in a country of colored privileges or gender privileges per se, but we do live in a country of good choice privilege and bad choice privilege, right? Because like I said earlier in the law books, there's nothing on the law books that says that I cannot do this because I'm black, or I cannot do this because I'm white, or I can do this because I'm black, or you know what I'm saying, Asian, and so forth, so forth, so forth. There's nothing on the law books that say that. Now, yes, you may have laws that may be gender specific, right? But that's more of a scientific issue that's actually based in absolute truth and reality. Like
Mm-hmm.
some things, as far as the gender freaking stuff, they have to be there, you know, because there has to be a categorization of those things, because that's scientific. That's based on absolute truth. There's nothing abstract about those type of laws that are
Yeah.
gender specific. That's different from race-based stuff that's not even there. So I would say that the privileges we have as black people here in this country is that we are Americans in this country, that we are citizens of this country. We literally have the opportunity to reap and sow the benefits of all of our choices. So we can choose to make those choices good or bad for the most part. Like we choose that, right? And it's not about your upbringing per se, because most people in America don't start off with a silver spoon in their mouth at all. Most
Mm-hmm.
people don't. But what's so unique about America is that you can literally start from nowhere and just reach astronomical heights if you just do something so basic as far as just get some type of education, like high school. Just get through high school, obtain a skill or a trade, you know, work hard, um, establish some type of freaking monogamy with another male or female, right? Establish a family. You know what I'm saying? Like we have the ability to start from nothing and gain everything without nothing on the law books holding us back from doing that. Like there's nothing on the law books that say that we can't do that at all, unless you're a criminal or have, you know, like me, to a certain extent. There are certain jobs I
Mm-hmm.
can't work, of course, but again, that's due to the consequences of my bad choices. So
Yeah.
now I have to reap. I have to reap the benefits of the bad choices that I made, right? Because that's the choice I made. It's not because of what anybody else did or what other privileges that might be encroaching upon my own. Like no other white person or Asian persons or Hispanic person's privileges encroached on my own that caused me to make that bad choice, or that's caused me to not have this job market um, open to me anymore. No, it's because I chose to commit a crime. So therefore, I have to lay in whatever consequence that comes from that. Um, so no, I don't think black people um, have a disadvantaged privilege at all. I think we actually are very unappreciative of the privileges we do have in this country. For real, we're very unappreciative of it. Because, like I said, we're always looking for a reason to not hold ourselves accountable for our bad choices. So the
Mm-hmm.
first thing that I always do is, instead of saying, you know what, I gotta tighten up, or I have to maybe, you know, exhibit more principles in myself, and you know, discipline. Maybe I gotta make some character changes. Instead of doing those things, we point the fingers at others and just say, no, I don't have to change. You all have to change.
Yeah.
You know.
And I think that so if we went along with the logic and the mindset that America is, it's a white man's system, it's built for, white supremacy, it's built for, white people to have privileges and for them to get ahead. Why is it that we see groups of people that come in from other countries who
And
do
do
not have
great.
foundations in this country, who just seem to just come in and just do very well for themselves? Like
They
you
even
have
do
people
better
who
than
come
white
in
people for
from,
real.
from people who come in from Africa, right? They do better than white people. Like Asians earn more money than white people do in this country. So if it's a country that's built up for white people to have all the
White people.
privilege, why is it that these other groups of people are actually coming in and doing better than white people, doing far better than African Americans? So it's just like we have these things, like we have these facts and these realities that are tangible, that we can see, and yet it's like we tend to like just ignore them in order to make excuses for why we just cannot get ahead. And it's like even with the Hispanic population, like they have grown tremendously in this country. Like we are, like they
Absolutely.
have surpassed us in numbers in this country now, and so we are almost like the smallest minority in this country, and not literally, but we our numbers are almost shrinking, and we're not progressing, yet we are one of the foundational groups of people that have been here since the start of this country. So
Right.
how does that make sense? Like these other groups of people are coming in from other parts of the world, and they're coming in and doing just fine with no complaints. They're in their own world. Like they're not worried about police brutality and racism. Like they're not worried about it. Like they are focused on themselves, on building families, on making sure that their kids are being set up for success, and really building that wealth. Like they come in first generations and just do amazing here. So
Right. They
it's
just be on
like
the
how,
ball.
so it's like I don't understand how we can still have this mindset that there are things being stacked against us when we have real time and real life examples of groups of people who don't have those issues. So why is it that we have these issues but nobody else does? And we've been here the longest. Like we've been here just as long as white people have been here. So how does that work, Michael?
So somehow we've gotten away from traditional values, right? It's the traditional values that kept the black family together in the early days, right? Like if you notice, like, and like I'm pretty sure your mom's time or even your freaking great grandparents' time or even in your grandparents' time, they did not have all these cultural issues. They had actual issues that dealt with society. They had those issues to face, but they did not have internal cultural issues, right? At all. They were very based in like family, hard work, respect, education. They were very based in that, and they actually strove for that. Nowadays, we have we've gotten away from the real traditional values because we've been blinded by um, this kind of fame lens, right? Where everybody freaking wants to be an entertainer or a model. Everybody wants to be famous, basically, right? Especially amongst the black community, everybody wants to be famous, right? Nobody wants to actually work hard for anything, but we want to gain everything for nothing. So what's happening is while we keep on absorbing this entertainment culture, I'm just going to call it that, right? While all of us keep absorbing these entertainment cultures, you have these people from other countries that are still very much, um, they're very much drenched and they are mired and cultivated in the more traditional values, right?
Mm-hmm.
Family, honoring thy mother and thy father, respect for others, working hard, having integrity, being honest, striving to be something as basic as, a plumber or, starting your own hair business or becoming like a police officer or a lawyer. See, for us, those things are not glamorous enough, right? Because it's not glamorous or cool enough, right? Then we're not going to get it, right? And that's for both men and girls in our culture, right? Like we always tend to overlook the average guy, right? The quote unquote average guy for a guy that seems to be like he is a famous person. That's
Mm-hmm.
what we kind of go after. We go after the glitz and glamour of things. We don't go after the things that have actually been proven to have worked over a long space of time. Stuff like career, like real careers, you know, that are rooted in the infrastructure of what makes the world go round.
Yeah, and I'm
Those
so
careers
glad.
we've gotten away
I'm
from.
glad that you're touching on that, because like I was literally thinking that with these immigrant and migrant families that come in, when they're raising their kids up, they're pushing them towards those careers that make money. Like they're not trying to, let their kids go and, be art majors and,
No,
African
not nothing
American
useless.
history masters. And, not that like there's anything wrong with that, but I think that, with our
There's
culture,
not a
we
big
tend to, right, like it's
a
like you're not gonna
market
really
for it.
make money in those. And so instead of trying to steer our children into those STEM fields, into those tech fields where you're gonna really make that money, we just let them go, oh, just do whatever you want, sweetheart. As long as you're
Yeah,
happy, just go do whatever you want. And then they're not making any money, right? So it's like, you know, I think that goes back to just those traditional values about hard work and, just not being afraid to get a little dirty or put in a lot of work in order to reap a good reward. And I think that like
right,
that's something that those migrant families and, what other groups of people may, tend to have that we tend to lack in our
right. We
community.
have. Well, I'm telling you, like we have gotten so far away from that, where it's like it is literally looked down upon when a guy is like a plumber or a bus driver or an HVAC worker. Like we look down upon that for real, for real. We look down
And those are
upon
good,
like
and
those
those are
blue
good. Like
collar
those are
guys.
good professions that earn
They
like really
pay a
good
lot.
money, like
They pay
that
a
earn
lot,
great money.
and you don't have to go to college for them. Like that's the beautiful. Like
Right.
you don't have to go to college for them, right? And I wish I had known that when I was going to college, but still,
Yeah.
I got lucky and I got into this field that I'm into now. But most people
Mhm.
are not as lucky as I am. You know what I'm saying? So it's like we have to start pushing for those more traditional values, those more um like I'll call them jobs that are basic and not glamorous, but they are pertinent to the infrastructure of like how the
They're
world works.
necessary, the necessary jobs of our society, necessary function. Michael Rivers in the chat says, "Ask them who Uncle Tom is, and I bet that they can't tell you." And that's so true. It's like we just have like all of these like just passed down some just like passed down ideas and just concepts that we don't
Insults,
really know
right?
where they
Yeah.
came from, but we've just adopted them and like they've been programmed into us, and it's like we just you know don't know how to unprogram ourselves from that mindset and from that way of thinking, because yes, maybe at one point in time things were not in the best situation for
Ideal.
us, like like
Absolutely not.
things were not good, but we have just progressed so far in this country. Like we have come such a long way. And I think that we just do not recognize and just give credit to this country for how far it has come. And even being like almost like pioneers with the world. Like we were one of the first countries to get rid of slavery. Like slavery was a global thing.
Yeah,
Like that wasn't just an American thing. Like that was a global thing. And we were one of the first
that was the
countries to
norm.
actually get rid of it. Right. Like that was that was
That was the
normal. Like
norm.
slavery was normal across the world. And we were one of the not the first, but we were in the the beginning phases of one of the first people to actually like, hey, like this is wrong, this is not okay, we can't keep doing this to people. And so we've made so much progress in this country. We just do not. I really wish like our community would just step away from the media
The
headlines
past. The
and
past, yeah.
try to and open up their heart and just forgive um white people, whoever you need to forgive, just forgive for the wrongdoings that
But
has
look, look,
happened in
look,
this
listen,
country.
listen. Here's what I'm asking. Who do you really have to forgive? Ain't
I
nothing
mean,
ever
nothing
happened
happened
to
to you
you.
specifically, right? It's like
That's what
nothing
I'm
like even
saying though. It's like what type of like pain are you harboring, right? Like my grandmother doesn't act like this. You know what I'm saying? And she
it's passed
was,
down trauma, Michael. It's passed
but she
down
was
trauma.
literally born in 1945, and she has never passed down none of this crap to me.
It's
Right? Like she
passed down
understood.
trauma, Michael. We have look. I'm not going to say that completely irrational for there to be some harboring feelings from our community. I'm not saying that it's not irrational, but
Right.
we have to.
I'm just more heartless than most, but
It's okay.
that's just
It's
me.
okay. But we have
That's me.
to be willing. It's like if we want to see progress, right? If we want things to be better and we want to move on, we have to let go. We have to forgive.
We have to
right?
let go.
We have to move forward. We can't move forward if we're going to be stuck on things that happened long before we were even born. Right. So, and like that also just comes with just acknowledging just the progress that we've made. And we don't do that.
Right. I mean, I tell folks this all the time, right? If there was any time to institute actual constitutional racism, like in history, was when the founding fathers drafted the Constitution in the first place. Because that's when they still had slaves and stuff, right? They could have
They had
very
all the
easily.
power. They had all the power.
They
could
had all the power.
written
They
it
could
into
have very
law.
easily just been like, "This is it." You know what I'm saying? They could have been, but the fact that they showed the moral compass to think so far ahead of themselves and be like, "Look, we have to make this as equal as possible for everybody, even for
Yep.
those that we hold as slaves right now, because we have to think for the continuation of the country, not for the now, right?" So that kind of shows you like just how much forward thinking they had that we actually have to have as a people, right? Like we can't keep holding on to past stuff or stuff that's happening now. We gotta actually look forward to something better. And the only way to look, like you said, look forward to something better is to let go, acknowledge the progress we've made now, but then also know that we can still do more.
We can do more, and we can be better still.
Right.
We don't have to wait for somebody else to come in and save us. We have the ability and the capability to save ourselves. We don't have to wait for other people to do it for us.
Oh no, and this it's like I said, when I spent those years in prison, it's like I really got back in tune with what my true value was. Because like I told you at the beginning, I was never a criminal, right?
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of pushed down my true values and what I truly stood on and believed in, because I was just trying to fit in and just rock out with the crowd, right?
Yeah.
And I got back in touch with my actual self, and I was like, man. And then I'm seeing all these things unfold over the years, like George Floyd and all these riots and protests. And I'm just thinking to myself, in every incident, it's like I can kind of see why it escalated the way it did, and it's kind of
When
your
you
fault,
watch,
buddy.
like it's like when you watch like the full incidents and like how they unfold, like not just like this little 20-second clip that goes viral. You watch the whole incident. It's like, I don't know if I can really be upset with the reaction. And I think that people have to understand that hindsight is always going to be 20/20. Right. So like looking back on things, I think we all have had moments in our lives where we either made mistakes or we, could have moved a different way. And looking back on it, it's like, oh yeah, I could have done this. I should have done that. That wasn't the best move to make. But in the moment, you feel like you're making the right decision. Like in the moment, you're facing, especially if you're facing with a life or death situation. In that moment, you feel like this is what I need to do in order to,
Right.
To keep the situation calm, and then also so that way I can get out of here alive. Like, so I think that, we just have to just remember those things and remember that like these officers are humans. They are people, they are officers, and, they are officers, and we do hold them to a higher standard as far as their reactions, but they are still human, and they all still want to get home to their families at the end of the day. And so, we can't just act like when they're being met with threats and met with violence or met with someone behaving erratically, that's just not something that, that they're going to just, respond to lightly. Right.
No, absolutely not. Nobody would.
Right.
Nobody would.
So I want to kind of wrap things up, Michael. I do want to ask you one more question, and then we'll kind of wrap up and we'll get on out of here. So as we've discussed police brutality, right? And how, we kind of have discussed the misconception of Black Americans and their in my opinion, their irrational fear of the police. I don't think it's a rational fear. I think it's a very irrational thing to be afraid of the police. They're there to help you, not to hurt you, generally speaking, as long as you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, right? So for you, Michael, would you be more in fear of your safety if you got pulled over by the police or if you were walking through a low-income Black neighborhood?
Oh, definitely a low-income Black neighborhood. I mean, definitely. Because most times with the police, it's like, I know they're pulling me over because I did something wrong. Right. And I know they're just trying to hurry up and handle it and get on at it, their way. Because no cops wants to have a very hostile, it's tiring to have to fight somebody. And then you have to do that paperwork and go right back out there. And, ain't nobody trying to do that. But when you're walking through like just a low income freaking neighborhood, you don't know where you're at, and it might be nighttime, you don't know what can happen to you. You know what I'm saying? People just walk up to you asking you for change, asking for $1. You're like, man, man, you're like 85 years old. Why you asking me for it? You know what I'm saying? Like, man, get out my face. It's so much unknown when you're walking through an impoverished neighborhood that you don't know anything about. Because anything could happen. Somebody could come up and harm you, threaten you, offer you this, offer you that. People like stalk you if you say no to them. Like, no, man, I'm not gonna let you get $1. Then they keep asking you for it. Then they keep following you. Like, I've had it happen to me several times. Hey, man, I just need $1, man. I'm telling you, if you don't back up, I'm gonna punch you. If you don't back up, I'm gonna punch you. But no, I'm not gonna feel unsafe if a cop pulls me over. As long as, like I said, I just understand they have a job to do. And it's my job to make their job as easy as possible so that they can go home and I can go home.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Did you have fun, Michael? Was this fun?
I did. This was fun. Good. All the nerves came down.
Good.
Came down. And I'm glad that we actually worked it out because this joint was a project. Just to get
listen. We were struggle streaming in the beginning, but we figured it out. We made it work. And I'm so glad that you were able to join me. I'll give you the last word. Do you have any final thoughts or any other commentary that you wanted to add?
Yes. Please, everybody, let's all adopt the ability to unlearn things so that we can relearn things anew, right? Because that's how you grow as a person, right? So just always be open to being corrected, being honest, being faithful, and, just being a good person. All right. That's it. That's all I really had to say.
Awesome. Well, thank you again so much, Michael. I really greatly appreciate you joining and being open and sharing your story with the public. I know it's not, an easy thing to do, being so open like that, but I'm just so grateful for it. And I think that it really made for some really great dialogue and some really great discussion that I hope will translate over into the people who are watching, that may have sparked something within them, that as you're watching, that you may have heard something that you may not have thought about before, maybe heard a different perspective. So hopefully that translates into your life as well. Maybe you'll want to have those conversations with the people around you and your family or your friends. So thank you again, Michael. And we're going to go ahead and get on out of here. Thank you for joining. If you tuned in for the live. Bye.
Thank you for having me. Good night.
Absolutely.